Hello, welcome back to our intervention discussion. This is the Corp side of intervention. So we covered the runner side. The link will be in the comments there for that. And I have with me two players from the Bay Area. I have Adam Cabrera, who goes by Aleph. Did I mispronounce that again?
Yeah, Alex too.
Okay, and John, who goes by Joseki. I am horrible at pronouncing things, which means I shouldn't be the host of things, but I am anyway. So let's go right into it. So we are starting off with HB. We have wet work refit. This is an operation. It's a condition, 0 play cost. It says install wet work refit on a rezzed piece of Biroid ice as a condition counter with the text, host ice gains do 1 brain damage before all its other subroutines, and 2 influence in case that's ever relevant. I was watching a Willingdon today, and he was talking about creation control and how he wished what's the ID that has all the extra influence? Custom biotics. He was wanting custom biotics to have a condition counter type effect instead of the influence, and this would fit right into that. Maybe they're building HB out to have some condition counter related effects. But what do you think about this one, Adam?
It's interesting. I think it's maybe hard to fit it in your deck, but like on a 2.0 Bioroid, this just sort of makes most of them pretty much unclickable.
You could take brain damage.
Oh yeah, I know you like to take brain damage, Ryan. So.
Do you really like brain damage? I've noticed a strong correlation between the amount of brain damage a runner has and them winning that game is very high. Like when a runner takes 5 brain damage, they almost certainly will win that game. I think it's something like the cost of giving the runner the brain damage is really high. So like you've put so much time and effort into that the runner gains a relative benefit. It's weird. I don't have any evidence of this. Anyway, John, what do you think about wet work? Is John there? All right, maybe.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay, what do you think about wet work, John?
Oh, it's okay. I think you could do some cool stuff, like Adam said, 2.0 Bioroids, putting a wet work refit on it. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say if this will go the way of sub boost or if people will actually figure out a good way to do it.
Nope. We'll talk about sub boost again when we get to data ward, but I think there's also something to you can do 3 wet work on Fairchild 3, and then they have to have like 7 clicks at the start of their turn, so that gives new life to Hyperdriver. They can now use Hyperdriver to break your wet work. Speaking of
the really frightening thing to talk about with wet work refit is that art, like. That's how they're doing the brain damage. I don't want to go anywhere near that Bioroid.
Oh shoot! I hadn't even the artwork as you can all see on the screen, because I've almost certainly edited this correctly. Yeah, Bioroids are scary, I guess, because they have just giant spikes for arms now. So that's something to look out for. Speaking of Bioroids, let's talk about Architects of Tomorrow. Adam, whose turn is it? Is it John?
Sure, I'll go.
Yeah, Adam, go for it. So, Architects of Tomorrow.
So Architects of Tomorrow, this is HB's Megacorp in this cycle. The first time the runner passes a res piece of Bioroid ice each turn, you may res a Bioroid, lowering its res cost by 4.
And this is a 45-12. Yeah, so this is fitting the theme of a lot of corps, a lot of just IDs having 12 influence this cycle. John, have you had a chance to play with this yet?
Yeah, I played a bunch of games with it. It's super good. It kind of depends on... I think it's really nice in a style of deck that's trying to score points early, and like not necessarily like with fast advance, but like trying to rush out. I first started off building like a super glacier slow deck with this, and it was actually terrible because they only ran like 3 times in the game and won. So I didn't really get to use the ID ability very much. But it's cool when you're like trying to rush, because then you get to use the ID ability like every time they try and get it, which is nice too. And if you can, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, here's the important question: is it possible to build an Architects of Tomorrow deck that never pays credits to res ice? So we have what's the asset that you can like reduce cost by clicks? Brain Taping Warehouse, right? combination brain taping warehouse, maybe Akataro, whatever. But can we get to the point where you never spend a credit to res ice?
You
Probably.
Yeah, I mean, you need to play like some small amount of credits, like resing a Fairchild one, so they pass it, right?
No, I want to get to the point where you somehow mitigate that cost completely. You might be paying credits to res brain taping or whatever, but you're never paying money to res the ice. I think would be a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah, Akitaro is maybe what you need to enable that.
And
Sure.
Surat City Grid.
Yeah.
Oh, the combo.
Yeah.
Wombo combo. This one feels like it's gonna play a little bit differently than ETF. It reminds me of ETF, just in that you have like this huge economic benefit. This one is triggered in a different way and is like bigger, but maybe happens less often. But just this also gives you such benefits against like Valencia blackmail, and there's all sorts of. This one like also really well. I'm thinking about the Kate keyhole what's it called, hyperdriver deck.
Yeah,
But
diaper.
I was trying to avoid saying diaper because I hate that as a deck name, but yeah, that is what it's called. I guess maybe this doesn't do much against that though, huh? Yeah, this is interesting though. You could also use Biroid efficiency. What's that condition counter lets you res Biroids maybe as
Yeah.
a part of this. That could be interesting. There's a lot to dig into here. I think this one's going to take some time to
You get
kind
to
of.
res a Wotan for 10 credits, right? It's pretty good.
Yeah, you can res a Wotan for 10 credits.
It's like, it sounds funny, but like, well, 14 is definitely too much to pay for a Wotan these days, but 10 is probably fine if you have
Sure.
the money.
Sure. Yeah, Econ will be interesting in this deck too. I have no idea what that's going to look like. Let's move on. So, I'm not going to try and pronounce this one. I'm going to give that one to John. John, do you want to talk about the next card?
Sure. This person is Fumiko Yamamori.
Wonderful. Well done.
It's a Jinteki asset character. It's 4 to res and 4 to trash. And it's 2 influence. Whenever you and the runner reveal secretly spent credits, do 1 meat damage if you and the runner spent a different number of credits.
Something to note here is that she is smoking like an e-cig right now, or it might even just be a classic cigar. Do you think there's a connection here with smoke? That's the thing we need to focus on right now. There's clues here, you know? So yeah, this is a card that I'm sure Nisei players are going to absolutely love. I don't play Nisei Division myself. We have a player in our meta that does play it. I don't know, Adam, what do you think about this one?
I don't know. I mean, it seems like a pretty strong effect. It's a little expensive to res to get that effect, but if you're playing Nisei Division, yeah, this could be nasty. The runner pretty much goes and trashes it immediately if they see it, I think.
Does government investigations blank this card?
No, I think in Nisei Division you're quite happy to play a 50-50 still if you're going to get a credits and meat damage.
Yes. What is the asset that Nisei Division got like a few packs ago that gives them money when side games? Do you remember the name of that one? I'll have it up on the screen right now. Anyway, there seem to be getting a critical mass of effects right now. Do you see yourself playing Nisei Division coming up, John?
I'll probably try it out for sure. I could definitely see some cool stuff for, I mean, just more ways to give your Marcus Baddies, Caprice, and Xai Ice a little bit more bite. The ice like Ike that's been coming out recently, and these kinds of like, you know, low to res multi-sub Psy Ice seem really, really strong. Just in general, they seem like they're very hard to break repeatedly, and because they have a potential positive effect to the runner, like in the case of Ike, you get to the runner draws 2 cards before it fires. I think that's really interesting to build a deck where you get to stack these side game effects. I think it'd be a lot of fun. So I'll probably try it out. Yeah.
Yeah, this is not limited to once a turn. She is unique, so you can't stack this asset in particular. But every side game this happens, so something to keep your eye on if you play against Nisei Division. They are certainly going to have Fumiko in their deck. Let's move on to Hasty Relocation. This is a Jinteki operation, 2 influence, 0 play cost. As an additional cost to play this operation, trash the top card of R&D, and then you draw 3 cards, add 3 cards from HQ to the top of R&D in any order. John, I think I'm going to go to you immediately for this one for reasons that I think will become obvious, but what do you think about Hasty Relocation?
So it's all right. So the reason that's obvious is because I play a lot of cerebral imaging combo decks in the Bay Area meta, and I think in general I just really love that play style. So Hasty Relocation is interesting for a few reasons. It lets you take from your hand and basically make a quote unquote Jackson pile. So you can put 3 cards on top of your deck, which is exactly as many cards you would see if you played the card Accelerated Diagnostics. So what's cool about Hasty Relocation is it lets you do these little like burst combos. There was a player yesterday at the GNK we played in who was using Hasty Relocations in a Polana deck to either use Shipment from Sands to score or just play 3 operation economy cards. Just to be like celebrity gift, restructure off my Accelerated Diagnostics, gain like whatever 29 credits, like some crazy number of credits, and so it's a cool card. It's actually very versatile. You don't have to be very all in when you play it, but you probably want Accelerated Diagnostics if you're going to play Hasty Relocation and some cool combo with it.
I'm curious what the game would have looked like. I mean, it would have been worse for CI, but if this was the kind of combo enabler instead of power shutdown. It
is now, right?
It is now. I mean, power shutdown is still a factor, and you might as well play both in your deck. But this one's really interesting. That's sort of like a mid-game Accelerated Diagnostics play. Do you have any insight into this card, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm really looking forward to the crazy things that can be done with it. There's also the possibility of using this to stack your R&D for a accelerated beta test.
Oh yeah, certainly. You have like 3 ice in hand, and you just shuffle them back into R&D before scoring the ABT. That's wonderful. There's so many effects in the game that are related to the top of your deck as the Corp, and this clearly plays in. The trashing the top card of R&D is also, I think, a really nice kind of balancing factor to this. Just sort of the chaos that can create. Anyway, let's talk about sub boost next in the context of Data Ward. So this is being like NBN scum that I am. I'm a big fan of this card. We have NBN Ice. It's 3 influence, so it's ours. It is a barrier for 6 res cost, strength 8. Because that's a number. When the runner encounters Data Ward, he or she must pay 3 credits or take 1 tag. And it has 4 subroutines, all of which say, end the run if the runner is tagged. So how many sub boost do you think is the right amount to play on Data Ward, Adam?
I think 1 is sufficient. You're running 3 in your deck, but you want 1 for each Data Ward.
That's right. You ultimately you want to get Data Raven into Data Ward on R&D, HQ, and the remote, and then you want to go and sub boost a Data Ward. So this, Data Ward is pretty great. John, do you have anything additional to say about Data Ward?
I really like Data Ward and NBN for a lot of reasons, but I think not the least of which is it's reliably taxing. Like, there are a ton of games where Toll Booth just tolls them like twice, and like that's kind of really all it does. And we still play Toll Booth, right? Like, you'll still play Toll Booth. This is too cheaper to res in most NBN decks that don't really have a lot of money, and it'll toll them every time. If they can't pay the 3, they have to take the tag, which is interesting. So it's cool. So it always does something. It's not like Toll Booth where if they have 2 credits when you res it, they just bounce off. Like, they still have to take the tag. And yeah, I also really think it's quite good against stealth decks. Making stealth pay real money for runs is somewhat challenging oftentimes, and this card always makes them use their actual credit pool.
This is also like the ultimate combo here is Data Raven into Data Ward, and something that really hits that quite well is New Angeles City Hall to avoid the tag. So then you get through Data Ward for 2 credits, essentially, rather than what would be 3, and then Data Raven you get through for really well. So I was playing that yesterday in Smoke, and I hit a crazy server that had like 2 Data Ravens and a Data Ward, and it was expensive to get through, but Stealth helped a lot, and New Angeles made it like actually realistic to get into that server. So it's an interesting card. It is a softer toll booth, but like once it's on, it is on. Mm-hmm. Let's move on to Drone Screen. Adam, do you want to read this one?
Yeah, Drone Screen is an NBN upgrade. It's 1 to res, 4 trash. If the runner is tagged, Drone Screen gains whenever the runner initiates a run on the server, trace 3. If successful, do 1 meat damage. Cannot be prevented.
So this one reminds me of Dedicated Response Team in a way. This is sort of the opposite of that. John, do you have any cool plays with Drone Screen here?
Not really. I don't know, like maybe stack multiple of them in a server. They're hard to trash, right? So they're a little bit annoying. They're cheap to res and hard to trash, which is good. That's fine. That's fine. You know, like if you can get multiple of these things going, that's pretty good. If you can get Arabata tech going, that's pretty good. So yeah, it has some synergies with kind of like the standard tracing stuff. And it's definitely very annoying, to say the least, if you do want to make a run on this server. So.
Oh, maybe this is a good thing to put on top of your city surveillance. Like they take they take the tag at the start. This does not work. I love city surveillance, so that's like always in the background of when I'm looking at cards like this. But yeah, maybe there's something to that. I think what worries me about this is that it just completely does nothing in a lot of cases. So they get to the bottom of R&D or HQ or whatever, they see this card, and now they know, oh, I can't run on that server if I'm tagged, or I only run on that server after clearing tags. So
yeah, I do really like the idea of this card. I know starting out in Netrunner, I really wanted a card that just said, no, you should clear your tags. And that's sort of what this card does.
It doesn't trace, but trace 3 is pretty good. Like even 1 link runners are gonna have to pay 2 credits to avoid the meat damage. That feels about right. So yeah, we'll see how Drone Screen turns out. I think it's gonna be something that's pretty situational on the deck, but it could be a fun thing to mix in, especially if you have Judge Dredd in your deck, if you have Dedicated Response Team, all that kind of stuff. Oh boy, it's Wayland time. Let's talk about Chief here. John, do you want to cover Chief?
Yeah, Chief Slee is a 2 to res unique asset character, 3 to trash. Whenever an encounter with a piece of ice ends, place 1 power counter on Chief Slee for each unbroken subroutine on the encountered piece of ice. And then, of course, because she's Wayland, she has click, 5 hosted power counters, do 5 meat damage.
So could we quickly talk about the art? Is she holding like a 1930s style bomb in her hand? Like the cannonball style bomb? Is that what's going on there?
I just thought it was like a light.
No, her other hand, like the bowling ball.
Oh yeah, that looks like a helmet.
Yeah, I think that's just like an old, like a cartoon style bomb, or like
that's a helmet.
Oh, that's a helmet. Oh, now I see it. It's tilted the other way. Okay, I'm gonna choose to ignore that and believe it's a bomb from now on.
Sure.
Anyway, there was a Archer was a player in our meta was playing this yesterday in Blue Sun and was trying to be very rude by rezzing Hive and all of those crazy high strength ice in front of you to get the counters on Chief. Pretty situational, but man, it would be nice to just be like, click, you take 5 meat damage, right?
Well, I think Tour Guide's the dream, right?
Tour,
like in a deck, you like res Chief Slee, res Tour Guide, they bounce off, Chief Slee gains like 20 counters, and they're just dead on the next turn.
I don't know, that's still only 15 meat damage, right? Didn't you take like 35 meat damage at some game in Worlds and win?
Not in one turn.
Not in one turn. But you did take 35 meat damage that game.
Yeah, I got boomed like 4 times and scorched twice or something.
So Chief is I really Wayland has a lot of, I think, cards like this that are a little bit combo-y. Like I some of my favorite cards too. Like I love Dedicated Response Team. I love Judge Dredd. They have a lot of things like this, and it naturally fits into Gagarin pretty well. I think this is going to be a really fun one to play around with. And also going back to Data Ward, an interesting interaction here is this triggers for each unbroken subroutine on the encountered piece of ice. So if you res a Data Ward in front of them, and Chief is rezzed, they're going to have to break the 4 subroutines on Data Ward that literally helps them in no way, or Chief is just going to get 4 counters. So this is where you see like interaction within the same pack here, some synergy. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. And speaking of ice that has a lot of subroutines, here's Bulwark. This is Wayland's ice in this pack. This is a barrier. It is illicit, so that's going back to spin cycle. And 10 credits to res. This is 3 influence. Strength 8, so 2 strength 8 ice in this pack. When you res it, you take a bad publicity, and when the runner encounters it with an installed AI, the Corp gains 2 credits. It trashes 1 runner program, and then has 2 subroutines where the Corp gains 2 credits and end the run. So this one seems pretty expensive, and it has the illicit condition. I'm not enough of a Wayland player to really evaluate this correctly. Do you have any thoughts on this one, Adam?
I don't play a lot of Wayland myself. It seems tolerable. The illicit thing is really the big downside. The effects of the subroutines, I think, is probably why they gave it illicit. Like the runner trashes 1 program on a barrier on 8 strength is pretty good. So if you can be okay with that bad publicity, this might be a one-of in a Wayland deck.
Do you agree with that assessment, John?
Yeah, I could see playing this in like a Blue Sun deck, or maybe a deck with Mumba Temples to like help pad the res cost a bit. Yeah,
sure.
It seems acceptable, and I think this is is the first barrier with trash a program in the game? I think so.
Is that true, Adam?
I think it is.
That might be.
I think that's probably why they started it off expensive, right? You don't
certainly is notable. Yeah, there's not a lot of barriers that don't just end the run, and when you see them, they're pretty high costed. If you think a Wall of Thorns for a 5 strength barrier is 8 res cost, so this might be interesting to compare that to.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should probably also mention that third subroutine, which, as far as we in our meta have been able to discern, basically reads "Screw you, Apex."
Yeah, so Apex can only break end the run subroutines, so the bottom 2 subroutines are not breakable by Apex. I think there's a little bit more to it, like Chief in particular. There's situations where you might be able to like only break 2 of the subroutines, and I don't know. There's weird stuff that could happen. But yeah, there's been a lot of debate on that third subroutine, why it says the Corp gains 2. Yeah, there might be something to it that we'll see coming up. So now we're into the neutral cards, and both of these are pretty interesting. So whose turn is it? Is Adam? Do you want to talk about best defense here?
Sure. Best defense. It's a 2-cost Grey Ops operation. Trash 1 installed card with an install cost equal to or less than the number of tags the runner has.
Oh boy. So yeah, John, we were talking about this for CTM. Would be a pretty strong card. And it would be pretty strong against the deck we took to Worlds, Hate Bear, right? This was one we were pretty worried about if it was legal. Do you want to talk more about best defense?
Yeah, so this card's pretty much just like a solid card in any like Tag Storm style deck. I think in particular, this is less exciting in yellow than it is in Wayland. In yellow, you kind of already have access to things like Observe and Destroy and Closed Accounts, and like lots of really good tag punishment
All
there.
Seeing Eye, yeah.
Yeah, All Seeing Eye. There's so much. And in Wayland, though, there are a lot of games you play with Wayland where you tag them. They're very tagged. They're probably never going to be untagged, but they have like a Plascrete installed, and you just can't win the game before you can find a way to get through the Plascrete. And best defense that works really well in a deck with Consulting Visit. You can go ahead and go tutor it out, find it, blow up their Plascrete. Yeah, I just think overall, like, decks that play best defense just have a way bigger advantage against decks that either go tag me, like the deck that we played at Worlds, or decks that get tagged but still win anyway, which is like most of the TemCon Wizard decks.
And another thing worth pointing out with this is it is one install card with an install cost equal to or less than number tag. So the Corp can play this without, any runs or whatever, just to trash a zero cost card. So some notable things are like SMC, especially with Wayland. Now let's just blow up their SMC and start scoring out Oaktown. There's of course Net Ready Eyes. There's a ton of things that are at that zero cost that this card just blows up, which is not necessarily a new thing. We've always had power shutdown for zero, but that required a run that did not hit resources. So there's some interesting stuff going on there as well. Okay, let's move on to the final pack in Intervention. This is Pre-emptive Action. John, do you want to cover this one?
Sure. So, Pre-emptive Action is a zero-cost operation terminal. After you resolve this operation, you end your action phase. Shuffle 3 cards from archives into R&D. Remove Pre-emptive Action from the game instead of trashing it.
This is a Jackson Howard 0.5, right?
Yeah, basically. It's just like the half of Jackson Howard that is, in my opinion, the better half of him, right?
Oh, certainly, yeah. So some differentiating things. This is a terminal operation. It's worth highlighting, and it's also not going to help you with flood necessarily. Like if you are flooded, you're going to have to have the agendas in archives for one of the runner's turn before you can get them out with preemptive action. So there's a little bit of risk there. I think this is also part of the overall strategy of Jackson is rotating out of the game at the start of the cycle after Red Sands. So I think that we've seen a lot of little mini Jackson effects introduced into the game, disposable HQ, etc. And I think this is a part of that kind of strategy of giving the corporation tools to deal with things like agenda flood and recursion without sort of the power level of Jackson. What do you think about this card, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of this additional recursion thing. Like, there's definitely potential for an outright annoying deck that still has Jackson in it and has 3 of these, and just plays a bunch of cards 6 times.
Yeah, we've seen decks like that too, such as IG and Gagarin that are playing Museum and bioethics and whatnot. So cards like Sol Set Slums and Archives Interface go up in value when we see a Corp recursion like this. So this one worries me a little bit, just in regards to we've seen kind of the power level of Corp recursion, and this seems like a pretty strong effect. But yeah, we'll see how it shakes out. Okay, so I think that is the end of our discussion of Intervention. We will be doing some more discussions like this as packs come out. I think this is a great pack, right, guys?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, there's a lot of great stuff here. I mean, so many of the there's 2 great IDs, and then we have just every card I think is at least interesting. Like, there's no cards here that I'm like, oh, that's pretty boring. Like, some of them, questionable power level, whatever. But there's a lot of great cards here and a lot of great stuff to look forward to. Thanks, everyone, for watching. We'll have more stuff up on the channel, including Store Championship season starting up soon. A lot of great commentary coming there. And we are starting up some streaming here in the Bay Area, so you can look forward to that on our Twitch channel. And I think that's it. Thanks, everyone.